Hey everyone, welcome back to the arena. I'm MD, joined here by Covey, and once again, a very special guest that we can't wait to introduce and have an awesome conversation with. Before we get into that quickly, just love and appreciation to those who are listening.
What's going on, guys? Good morning. It is 9 a.m. here on a Saturday, and I got to shout out. We have another awesome guest. This is Doug. He came in with all the energy in the world, which has got me. It's got me riled up now. So, thank you, Doug, for that. This is Doug Elks. Doug is a motivational speaker and also the podcast host of the AIM podcast. So, Doug, without further ado, first of all, thank you for coming on. And second of all, just provide a little bit of overview, like who is Doug Elks and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Let's go, man. Well, first off, thank you for that introduction. Energy is something I do love to give to people. It's I feel like if you're going to live life, you might as well live life with some energy and have some fun with it. But super grateful and honored to be on the show, man. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm always just encouraged when people sacrifice time and serve others and put positive information out or content out into the world to try to make an impact. So when you guys reached out, I was like super stoked to do this. But yeah, man, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I have a background of playing basketball. I was fortunate to get to play Division I college basketball at Western Carolina. I studied business there. I've always kind of loved business, entrepreneurship, kind of hustling growing up, selling Jordans. And at Western, I studied business management and marketing. And during college is actually when I started AIM, the platform that I now host my podcast from, Ambition in Mind. At the time, it was really just an opportunity to build a community of like-minded people that wanted to push themselves and get after it. And it's been really cool to see the way that God has used that to open up some incredible doors into what I'm doing now with some brand marketing and some partners we have on the show, and also my nutrition and supplement company, Kaizos, that I own with two of my best friends. And it's been really fun to build that company as well. But the goal is to help people to make an impact, to move forward in life no matter what the cards you've been dealt, and to help people. So that's what we're doing.
So have you always had that mentality of going through irrespective of the cards you've been dealt, or was there ever a flip, or was there ever a switch? For me, I think about my life, and for a big portion of my life, I was playing more of the victim card. Like, why was I dealt these cards? Like, this stinks. Like, why me? Kind of thing. It's then since shifted to more of what you're saying, which is, I think, yes, these are the deck of cards. Owning that. Like, there's no changing that. And then using those to the best of my abilities and to serve others in whatever else that might look like. So I'm just curious, like, how that it has evolved, if at all, for you, or if it's always you've always kind of had the latter mindset.
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. I kind of stem everything back to my childhood. I grew up in a home where I had one parent. My dad was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and it was super challenging to live in that environment. But what I quickly learned, and this is not to throw shame on my father. Like, I pray for him, I love him, I've forgiven him for maybe falling short a little bit of what an ideal leader would look like. But I saw someone who had so much potential, so much talent, and so much opportunity, and just not use it to the best of his ability. And I saw the way it impacted his own life, but not only his, but the lives around him, our family, my life, my mom's life, my brother. And I saw how hard my mom had to work to lead, to serve, to put me in a position to get to play basketball, to go to school, different things like that. And I think there's kind of two ways you can look at that situation. You can kind of feel sorry for yourself, or say, I wish I had a better situation, or I wish I had an ideal dad, or whatever. Or you can say, listen, this is the situation. I need to make the most of it. No matter what happens in life, I'm going to push forward. And now that's been my mission, man. That's been my driving force, is to live a life that that honors God first and foremost, but also impacts other people's lives, and hopefully encourages people that they're never going to be perfect, but you got to continue to improve. You got to continue to take ownership of your life, and try to make an impact on the people around you. And so I'd say that's kind of where I had my first real realization of what life was, and kind of got that first hit. It was like, look, life is not easy. Life's not fair, and but at the same time, it's beautiful. While it can be very challenging and difficult, it's beautiful, and it's a journey, and you get a lot of opportunities to grow through some of the hardest times in your life. And I'm grateful for every season I've been through.
You mentioned having to go through the process of forgiving your father, and I think forgiveness is often a topic that maybe gets overlooked in terms of like people's journeys to living their best life. A lot of our healing, a lot of our ability to move forward and live our best life involves a relationship with the idea of forgiveness. Can you walk us through like what that looks like, what that means for you, and maybe your relationship with forgiveness generally?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I truly believe it all, for me personally, it all stems from my relationship with Jesus. And that's the foundation of everything I do. It's the foundation of what I believe. And, as hard it is sometimes as humans, we have these relationships in our lives, and sometimes things go south. And sometimes, people hurt us and challenge us or break our trust or do something to us that we don't obviously desire. And there's that tension. But, I've tried to surrender a lot of those emotions to just understanding the fact that, I follow the one who came to die for my sins and my imperfections, and I'm no better, no worse than anyone else. I'm a sinner, and I've fallen short of perfection, and I've definitely hurt people. So it's just that understanding of, no one's perfect, and we all make mistakes, and I think there's an element of grace understanding that, but also that, as I serve Jesus, as I follow him, I want to emulate, those things in my life as well, and try to love others to the best of my ability. And that's kind of how I view forgiveness. And I think it's heavy when you walk with, that grudge or that, that weight of not letting someone, be forgiven in your life, while as hard as it may be. And I truly think that we have to control what we can control. You can't always control other people's actions or the way they treat you. You can control how you respond. You can control how you navigate those things. And so I truly believe life is better lived when you can walk with that peace, knowing that no one's perfect, but you're going to do the best you can to love others and respect people and understand that.
And then to that, in that process, to forgive in an interpersonal relational context, can you do so, and how do you do so if that other, or when that other person isn't necessarily sorry, or if they haven't gone through like a repentance of sorts? Like, can you still forgive, and how do you do that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, man. I think it really comes down to, there's kind of different couple ways you can look at this, but I think one way is what you're viewing about this person internally. Like, there's your internal position on this person, and I think that is the place where you do have control. You do have dominion over your own thoughts. You do have dominion over, the way you view the situation. And I think no matter if they're sorry or not sorry, you can say, that's on them. I've forgiven them. I have released those burdens. I have released that weight. I've dropped that weight of carrying the fact that, I'm holding it to them. I'm never going to let it go. Like, those are things that you can make that inner decision. And I think that's true for a lot of things we face in life, man. I think there's, a lot of things we can't control, but there's a lot that we can control. And it's a lot of perspective. It's a lot of the way we look at things. And I think if we took ownership of our own thoughts, our own mind, our own heart, we're going to be able to navigate things a lot more clearly. But we have to have that understanding of, what are we in control of and what are we not in control of.
You seem like very connected, Doug, just to yourself, your heart. And so I'm curious, when you make decisions, how are you balancing your intuition, your gut, with maybe the more rational part of your mind? I'm just curious, like, how you balance those two things when you figure out like where you want to go with your life, what things you do want to do, the places you do want to go, the places you don't want to surround yourself with. Just curious how that process looks for you.
Yeah, man, I love it. That's a good one. I, for a lot of my life, up until my freshman year in college, I would say I was a Christian, and that was kind of my moral compass. But the truth of it was very shallow. It was more of clinging to a title. It was a religion thing. It was going to church because it was the right thing to do in my eyes. It was reading the Bible as a book and not the living Word of God. And it wasn't until my freshman year that I really had an encounter with Jesus. And I had a guy who came in my life that ended up becoming one of my best friends. And he lived so differently, bro. He lived so differently. He had an energy about him. He had a joy. And I was like, bro, what's up, man? Like, what is this? And he's like, it's Jesus, bro. It's a different way of, this is the way I live. It's like, this is the reason I live. It's the reason I'm here. And that's what really changed for me, man. Up to that point, it was a lot of me just trying to do whatever I wanted to do, whether it was, focus and put my identity in basketball. And, that's what I was so focused on and obsessed with, or, flipping shoes or whatever it was. But that was kind of a pivotal moment in my life where I really started to hone in on my faith and, living for the Lord and really trying to understand what my purpose was on earth and why God put me here. And I think, to answer your question and kind of bring it all together, a lot of my decision making goes into my time with God and praying and just trying to be led by the Spirit. And also, I think in terms of the people you surround yourself with, I think you have to take a lot of awareness and intention with, what kind of fruit are they bearing? What kind of direction are they headed? How do they make you feel? how are they speaking to you? Are they encouraging you? Are they living for themselves? Are they going the direction you want to go? And so those are kind of some of the things that I kind of work through in that sense. But a lot of it does come now in my life, a lot of time in prayer and being led by the Spirit.
And in living that sort of life, it's interesting because when I think about that, I think like stripping away from all like materialism and living a more minimalist life. But I also get the sense that the way that you live life now, in that sort of letting that be like your North Star, God, your faith, the Word, what kind of abundance comes with that life? Because I think at the surface people might think like a lot is stripped away, but I want to understand like what do you actually gain and how has it really served you maybe from that freshman year forward in your life?
Yeah, I love that question, man. It's interesting you asked that because for the longest time, just being super vulnerable, I thought, like being a Christian, walking with Jesus, I thought it was challenging in the sense like God gives us all these rules, like the Bible's a rule book, and it's like you can't do this, you can't do this. But the truth is there's actually a lot of freedom in walking with the Lord. There's a lot of freedom in the disciplines that God calls us to live by, because the way that He's designed us and the way I view this is, He loves us. He's a God of love. The reason He sent His Son to die for us was to restore that relationship that was broken because of our sin, and that's love. That's a love story. And so I think, just like any good parent would do, He's going to warn us of things that we should be cautious of. He's going to warn us of things that are going to actually turn us into people that maybe we don't want to be or take us down a path of destruction. And so I think there's a lot of beauty in walking with that freedom, knowing that I serve a God who loves me first. He's not a God that's trying to make my life miserable or be a drill sergeant or a Navy SEAL. He's a God that loves me and cares for me and has this beautiful plan for my life. There's a verse I love, Ephesians 2:10. It says, God made us a masterpiece. Through Jesus, we're made anew to do all the good works He has for us. Like He has a plan and a purpose for us. And I think the truth is, when we obey that and when we follow Him, we're able to walk into that calling He has for our life. And so, to answer your question and kind of bring it all together, I think there's been a lot of freedom in just knowing that there's peace. No, I'm not perfect and I don't need to be, but I can rest in what Jesus has already done, and I can follow Him knowing that He loves me and He's prepared this path for me to follow.
Doug, I could feel that energy. I could feel the energy through the screen, man.
Let's go, baby.
I absolutely love it. I can't say that about every show we've done, but despite being virtual, I mean, it's crazy the power of energy and intention, and it really does shine through.
Matt, can I just jump in right there 1 second? Because I truly believe this. I'm so encouraged that you said that, and I give God the glory to that. I have not always been this way, and I truly believe when you're walking with the Lord and you're filled with the Spirit, it's a different energy, bro. It's a different type of energy because it's no longer you depending on your flesh. And I'm encouraged that you're saying that. But I truly I have, and it's so hard sometimes. I talk to people that maybe haven't fully given their life to the Lord, or maybe they're not Christians at all. And they're asking me, how do you know God is real? I know God is real because I've felt Him inside of me. I've felt the presence of God over my life, and that's why I'm so passionate about talking about it. Dude, for a lot of my life, I would want to talk about money, business, basketball, whatever. And those things are cool. I'm not saying that we just throw those out the window, but I just want people to understand I'm doing it on a different foundation and a different energy now because I've truly experienced the love of God and His presence, and it truly just changed my life.
It's so apparent. I'm fired up listening to you. So, and there's a point you mentioned in there, kind of like holding your identity to basketball and tying those two things together.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as someone like my best friend played basketball at William and Mary, has been playing overseas for the last 6 or 7 years, and I'm just curious how that evolved, like having an identity tied to a sport, and what happens when you're no longer playing that sport. I think a lot of athletes, especially ones that then continue playing, college, but then playing professionally, and then kind of come back to life where you're not like the cool thing. Everyone's not coming to you saying, "What's up, man?" Like, "Oh my gosh, look at you, you're a basketball player." Like, just talk through that experience for a little bit.
It's real, bro. It's real, and I've been, I love my teammates. That's one of the best parts about college is you build these incredible relationships with your teammates, the people you go through so much with. And I've seen a lot of them try to make this transition, and it's been challenging. But up until college, bro, like my identity was basketball. That was a big part of my testimony, and I think it stems from a couple things. I think part of it was growing up in a home where my dad didn't give me the love and attention that I thought I really wanted. And so I was so focused on saying, look, I'm going to be the best basketball player. Like when people say, who are you? I'm a basketball player. Like I'm going to pour all of my time into this sport. And hopefully through that, I'm going to get some recognition. People are going to appreciate my skill and everything. And I loved the game. Like I enjoyed it. But I think there was, a level of unhealthy obsession with just wanting to be validated by the success I was having. And, I tell people all the time, like if your identity is in your sport and you truly believe that's who you are and that's your identity and that's why you're here on earth, what's going to happen when you can't play anymore? What does that mean? Who are you now? And so the answer to me, it's like, it's evident. It's like, that's not who you are. Like if you were just here to play your sport, if you were just here to put your identity in whatever, and look, people listening to this show maybe aren't all athletes, like whatever that is, maybe it's your job, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's whatever it is. The truth is, those things are all temporary. We can't put our identity, we can't rest our whole foundation of our life and the reason we're on earth on a temporary thing on earth. We just can't do that. Doesn't make any sense to me. And so that was kind of like that realization that I had. And, praise God, he really put it on my heart to start this platform AIM. And, I shifted a lot of what I was doing to kind of focus in on that and make an impact during that. Because up to that point, man, basketball is everything to me. And, once I started AIM and started to see the impact that we could have off just a little video on Instagram, bro. And it was honestly those moments of just helping one person at a time, getting DMs saying, dude, you got me out of bed today. Like I remember getting the first DM in college and it changed everything for me, bro. It was one person DM'd me and said, you got me out of bed today, man. I've been struggling with alcohol. I've been partying too much. I'm tired of living this way. I'm in this cycle, bro, and I need to break it. And your video encouraged me to get outside and get going and just take a walk and just like take that first step. Bro, when I tell you that changed everything for me, the way I viewed life, I was like, bro, I've never felt this level of fulfillment in my game of basketball. I've never felt this level of fulfillment of making someone else's life better and changing them and helping them break chains than I have scoring 30 points in a game. Like there's no comparison. And I was like, that started to just give me this desire. I was like, there's more to life than hoops. And that's kind of been my journey, man. But up until that point, it was consuming, man. It was really who I was.
Dude, same. Like as not basketball, but as it relates to being in service of other people.
Yeah.
As you were saying that, like I think about for myself, I related so deeply to being able to help someone to get a message saying what you said here help me or help my brother or help someone in my family. Wow. I mean, I got that, and when you said like the most fulfillment that you could ever gather, it is so accurate. Like I played basketball in high school, like no 40-point game. No, the nicest car that I've ever driven, like, it does not replace even close to being able to be in service of someone else. So I just wanted to, I feel that so deeply. One more question. You mentioned something that, like, you kind of glossed over it. I'm just curious what you meant there. When you were talking about your father and kind of wanting validation, you mentioned, I thought I really wanted love from him. So was that intent, the words there, I'm just curious. Like you said, you thought you really wanted it. Are you implying that you didn't really want love? Because I think about like my childhood, and I definitely wanted like that love from my caregivers.
Yeah, man. No, I definitely did want that love. I think, at the time, I thought I needed it. I thought like if I was gonna impress him, if I was gonna get that validation, surely I would have to do something successful. Because my normal life wasn't getting that to me, and I think I was young. I didn't really understand what was going on fully, and so I was like, if I'm a great basketball player, my dad was a really good athlete. He played every sport in high school. Had opportunities to play in college. Obviously, partying and drinking stuff kind of messed up his deal, but he was a very, very athletic, super strong, very good genetics, and I was like, man, like obviously I know he loves sports. I know he loves this. If I crush this, maybe this will help our relationship. I didn't know, but there was definitely a desire to have some sort of affection and love. But the cool thing about basketball, man, and this is where I'm super blessed again, and the way God's just given me grace in my life and blessed me, is he put some really powerful coaches and trainers in my life at a young age that were not obviously my father, but they did give me some sort of male guidance. And I think it's really important, and this is something I'm really trying to step into now, is helping men, younger guys, like grow up and become more disciplined and just sharpen themselves. But it's really important for young men to have strong male leaders in their life. And, that was something that I was super fortunate to have through coaches and through the game of basketball. So while there were parts of basketball that maybe were a little unhealthy in terms of my identity, there were also some really cool ways that God used the sport in my life to help me kind of set me up for what I'm doing now.
One of the things in your on your Insta page in your content, and similar to what we're talking about right now, is like this idea of growing into your calling. And I actually attended a virtual.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, right. Because
I feel that for sure.
Because we talk about finding your calling or finding your purpose, but I haven't heard it framed as like growing into your calling. I love that. Maybe I just love the word growth, but. I am curious, like the Doug of today, like what has he been able to label as this is my calling or these are my gifts rather, like what are your gifts? What are you uniquely putting out in the world today?
Your energy. I'll give you one. Sorry. Your energy is infectious. So.
Hey man, praise God for that, dude. Nah, energy's huge, man. I think that's a big part of my mission. It's to help inspire and encourage one person at a time to be ambitious, to live the life that they were designed to live, to break self-limiting beliefs, to take ownership of their life, to understand that your actions have consequences not only for yourself but the people around you. And I'd say, it's beautiful because it truly is a process of growth. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't snap your fingers and you're the person you're supposed to be. It's a day in, day out. We have a supplement company and our slogan is 1% better every day. It's the same approach to understanding your calling. It's getting a little bit better every single day and understanding that it's a process, it's a journey. And if you can really take ownership of that journey, you're going to have so much more fruit along the way because you're not going to be so fixated on the end result. And that's my mission, man. It's simple. I don't overcomplicate it. I just want to impact and change, one person at a time in a positive way. Maybe that's just planting a seed. Maybe that's just saying, hey, giving someone a compliment. Like your fade is clean, bro. Like keep rocking.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You guys didn't hear that before the show started, but he complimented my fade and it made my day.
You know what I'm saying though, bro? It can be small. It doesn't have to be crazy. Or maybe it's like, bro, your video today, literally, I'm gonna put down alcohol, bro. I'm gonna stop going to, getting in this cycle of partying and just living a life of just like comfort and just honestly this bad cycle, bro. There's a spectrum of it, but the beauty of it is just doing whatever you can to make that impact and to help one person at a time. So that's the mission, man. I love people. I love relationship building, and I love encouraging people, man. That's really what fills me up, man, is encouraging people.
I like to think I've got a pretty strong imagination, but people like Doug, and there's not many like you, or maybe there are, but I can't imagine Doug having a bad day. And I'm just curious, like, again, people with your mindset, they just seem so impenetrable and someone who walks around with a smile. And I know you just came out with some content just talking about the power of smiling, but to be able to walk into a place, smile, illuminate, bring some light into a room, compliment somebody, it just seems like that's who you are now very consistently. Do you have moments where you're not feeling it? Do you have a bad day?
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, dude, I definitely do. I'm human, man. I appreciate the compliment and the kindness, but I strive to be positive. I strive to give energy. I strive to impact the people around me. But of course, dude, there are days where I'm down. There are days where I struggle. There are days where, I feel like the enemy's attacking, bro. I feel like when God's using you and God's, moving through you and you're changing lives and you're helping people and you're doing it one person at a time, the enemy doesn't want that to happen. That's so there's gonna be attack. There's gonna be times where I get anxious. I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed a lot. I've got 7 speaking engagements in the next 2 weeks. I've been on 7 podcasts this week. And it's like, I'm stepping into this calling that I feel like God has for my life. But at the same time, there's times where I'm like, am I even worthy to be on this podcast with you guys? Like, is what I have to say valuable enough for someone to listen to it? And the truth is, I don't know everything. The truth is, I'm just doing my best to share with my experiences and what I've gone through and what God has kind of downloaded into my mind and my heart. But to answer your question, dude, absolutely. And I think, one of my mentors shared something with me that has helped me a lot in those moments when I've been having down days is a guy named Steve Weatherford. Steve won a Super Bowl with the Giants. He's done really well in the fitness industry, done a lot of cool things. But one thing he shared with me that really helped me on days where I didn't feel like it, where emotionally maybe I wasn't there, is he told me that professionals make decisions based on their commitments, the things that they've committed to. Amateurs make decisions based off their emotions and how they feel. And I truly believe no matter how you feel, no matter what your emotions are, even if you're down, there's still decisions in your life that you can make based on the commitments that you have. And if you're committed to being a positive person, if you're committed to being joyous, even when you're down, I'm not discrediting that. We go through things in life. We're human, right? We're going to have down days. But I still think there's a level of commitment you can make to the actions that you put out into the world.
You're pondering. Usually when
Well,
I can tell.
Do you have like your top 3 commitments to just like list out for us, or maybe it's one commitment?
Yeah, so I've got I've got 5 daily disciplines that are things I've committed to. This is something I did at the beginning of the year, and I do these every single day. I've got a lot of commitments in my life, but that's an easy list to kind of rattle off. The 5 things I do every single day is, 1, I read the Bible. I have the version on my phone, but I always try to carry a real Bible with me. I feel like I just gain so much more wisdom when I'm actually reading the tangible Bible. I pray out loud every single day. I do at least 100 push-ups every single day. This is something that has been powerful, and it's cool. It's a fitness thing. Like, you do 100 push-ups, it's good for your fitness, but it's been more of a mental thing for me, for discipline and taking dominion over my flesh. I think that's a powerful thing. I'm not necessarily encouraging everyone to do 100 push-ups every day, but maybe it's a walk every day or some sort of movement. It's something physical where you can say, no, I'm in control of my body. My body is not in control of me. I think a lot of people struggle. When we go into dark places, a lot of times it's because our body overtakes our mind. And I think if you can daily make your body submit to you, I think it's a really powerful place to be. Number 4 is I try to do some sort of professional development or personal development, whether it's a book, a podcast, a conversation with someone I'm learning from, going to an event, something where I'm stimulating my mind and I'm growing in that sense. And number 5 is what we've talked about a lot. It's to encourage at least one person a day. And so that's been like my 5 daily disciplines. It's easy for me to remember them. It kind of hits on spirit, mind, body, and it allows me to grow in my calling. And it's not overwhelming, because a lot of times I can do a lot of that list even before 10 a.m. or even lunchtime. But those are some things I've committed to this year.
I like every single one of those, and I'm assuming my guess is encouraging people comes pretty easily, and probably you don't even think about it, because I think about myself, and I'm just curious, how do you explain the feeling of just like wanting to bring people up and like encourage them? Because I was just having this conversation yesterday with somebody where I was telling her, and I was getting so passionate. I'm like, I just love seeing people grow. I love seeing people step into and unlocking this like version of themselves that has always been there. It just gets me so riled up. Like, I love seeing people smile, be happy. Like, I posted a story about just smiling the other day. The power of just the little shift it can have in your mood. Like, how do you explain that? Because I had trouble explaining that. Like, and she's like, honestly, it doesn't matter how you explain it. Just keep doing it. Because she's like, I'm not like that. Like, yeah. I don't want to just go and like talk to people and like make them feel good. So like, own it and continue to go do it. But I just had trouble kind of explaining that feeling.
Yeah, I love that you set it up that way. One thing that I've heard on a podcast, Ed Milet's a guy I love. I love his show. He's got so much wisdom, man. He's had so much success, and it's cool to hear him speak. But one thing he said that really kind of made things click for me is he said, you are most equipped to help the person you once were, to serve the person you once were. And so when I think about my life and I think about my childhood and the things that I've gone through, the struggles that I've gone through, bro, it fires me up because I'm trying to serve that person. And I'm trying to be that light in other people's lives that I wish I had when I was growing up. And granted, I'm blessed. My mom's incredible. My grandparents are amazing. I had really awesome coaches, but I wish I had someone that was just speaking that into my life, bro. Like, you can do this, keep pushing no matter what. This struggle that you're going through right now is going to turn into something beautiful, because now you're going to be able to help people. And these are things I would be telling to myself. And so when I think about how can I help other people, it's the same thing. It's like, dude, you don't know what people are going through. And that's one of the beautiful things about what you said about even just smiling at someone. Like, you have no idea sometimes what people are going through, what they've dealt with, what they're currently dealing with. And so if you can be that light in someone else's life, man, I think it's just a fulfilling way to live. It's a peaceful way to live, man, and it gets me fired up, bro. And then you start to see the fruit from it, and that's when I get supercharged, bro. When I start getting, I don't do it for validation, because I truly believe that God's called me to do it. But when you do see people say, like, man, you've really changed my life. You've really helped me. Like, I'm really encouraged. I'm doing this now, or I'm breaking this chain. Like, this is no longer holding me back. That's when I get supercharged, and that's when you see a whole different version that we probably don't want to even release on the show right now, because it might get crazy over Zoom or over this. But yeah, bro, that's what it is, man. It's serving who I once was. It's trying to, how would I impact that person? And everyone's going through something, man. So just trying to give some energy out to people, and you never know how that's going to help them. And the last thing I'll say as I wrap this up, not trying to be long-winded, but what's beautiful about helping one person at a time, and just even the smallest thing like a smile, you never know how much that's going to impact millions of people, bro. One smile to one person could be the thing that sets off and impacts millions of people, and you might not see the result or the fruit from that. And that's the truth, because you never know who that person is going to become. You never know what that person was planning to do if you hadn't smiled at them. You never know who they're going to touch. And so it's just a beautiful way of thinking of like, man, it's not about me. It's about serving. It's about giving. It's about impacting. And it's been truly fulfilling.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I'm you're speaking my language. It's like I love this idea of like supercharge, because again, I really hope it doesn't come across as doing it for validation for myself, because I really don't. I do it because I love it, and it makes me feel good. But when you do get a message of like, ooh, that made my day. I needed that. I mean, that just like sends me into orbit. I'm like let's go. It's just a little sense of validation that like, okay, I continue to do what you're doing. There's a reason for this. You're helping people. You're seeing it. You're feeling it. So I go ahead. I just wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, again, the people that, I'm sitting among two of them right now, right? Doug and Covey here, Matt Covey. Y'all are in just such a minority, at least from a place of like where I guess my environment and like the people that I'm around, and I'm right here in the city of Chicago, right, which is a very dense population, and I'm just wondering like, I guess it's a twofold question, Doug, but like, how can we possibly be in the minority with such a strong point of view? Like, why aren't people doing that today in your mind? And then number two, what has it done for your social circle to be the way that you are? How have you seen like the people in your circle change? Not like the people themselves change, but like how have you seen people come and go and your overall circle evolve as you've built up this type of way of life of just always staying positive, encouraging, and having that ambition in mind type mindset?
Let's go. Yeah, bro. Those are two. Thank you. Yeah, for the little shout out there. Those are two really good questions. Let me break them down. I guess the first question is why do I think that maybe people aren't, like generally speaking, aren't as inclined to like help others? Is that kind of the first question?
Just very generally, like why are we or you two in such a minority?
Yeah, man, I think, I don't know. I'm optimistic, man. I think there's more people out there that really want to do it, and I think some people don't know how to, and I think some people don't understand the power of just one little decision could be that thing. You don't have to become a preacher. You don't have to become a full-time motivational speaker. You don't have to start a podcast. Like, you can literally be making an impact in whatever industry, job, career, relationship, whatever you're doing, you can do that. And so I think maybe some people are on that fringe, and they just don't really know how to really go into that. But I think it's easy. It's easy to serve yourself. It's easy to do things for you. It's easy to be self-absorbed. And there are times where I'm tempted. And even now where I am now, and I'm like we talked about, you're growing into your calling. You're not arrived into your calling, right? Mm-hmm. And so I still have times where I am tempted with flesh. I still have times where I'm tempted with pride. I still have times where I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to serve this person, but dang, that was a fire clip, bro. That was a really, like, I nailed that. You know what I'm saying? And there's still that wrestle that will never be completely killed, but it's that pursuit of saying, no, I'm dying to self daily. God, you have it all. Like, I'm giving it to you. Use me. I want my heart to desire your heart. I want to walk in a way that honors and glorifies you alone. I want John 3:30. I want you to become greater. I want to become less. And it's this pursuit of continual improvement. But yeah, that's what I'd say, man. And I think the more people that we touch, the more people that we encourage in an imperfect way, not saying, hey, look at me, I'm perfect, I know everything, come follow me. It's like, no, I just want to serve. I want to give to you whatever I can. And maybe that's a little bit, but maybe it's a lot, who knows? And I think that mindset, that pursuit will hopefully encourage and inspire others to do the same. And then to answer your second question about like community and, what has it done? I think something really cool I learned is like, it's this idea of not chasing but attracting. It's this idea of showing up in a way where you're going to attract the energy that you want to be around. And I think it's so powerful. And God has blessed me in terms of my relationships, the people, my friends, the people in my circle, the mentors He's put in my life. And a lot of this has been a product of prayer and intentionality. But I think you have to be really aware of the people that are around you. Are they people that are serving, your mission? Are they people that you're able to serve theirs? And are you guys going the same direction? I think a lot of us have these homies or friends in our life, and they're like, man, I love this dude, but like, he's not really going where I'm going. And it's nothing necessarily wrong with that, except the fact that the closer you stay together, one of you guys is going to get pulled in whatever direction. And so while you can still love that person and still respect them and care for them, you got to be super hyper aware of, who's in that tight circle. And so like I said, man, I've been really fortunate. The guys I have in my group, my business partner, Lucas, has become one of my best friends. I've got Daniel, Colton, Joe. I've got a small circle, bro. I could count my best friends on like one hand. And it's all people that are based, grounded in their faith, because that, to me, where I'm at in my life, is the most important thing in my life. Nothing else comes before that. So that's been a huge thing. People that are ambitious, people that are trying to help people that are, striving to be better. They're not comfortable, man. I hate being comfortable. Good things don't happen when you're comfortable. You have to be continuously improving, continuously putting yourself in a position of suffering or striving to grow. And so that's kind of how I approach my circle and the people I surround myself with, and my hope and desire is that I give that same level of energy and value to them as they have done to me.
And how do you shed those kind of like maybe non-serving relationships? Because I think it's applicable for a lot of people. It's definitely been a part of my life, and I think there's a lot of people that I think deep down they know like this relationship probably isn't serving me, or there's a lot bad, or I always find myself down, or I find myself unhappy when I'm with this person, or I find myself jealous or envious, but for whatever reason, well, probably because it is the easier thing to do to stay in the known and the comfort, and they stay involved in things that don't serve them. So I'm just curious how that process looked for you in terms of maybe leaving relationships that no longer serve you and attracting ones that do.
That's a really good question, man. And it's honestly hard. I'm not going to like sugarcoat and say it's an easy thing to do. It's definitely very challenging, especially if you've known this person or had like a lasting relationship with them, and maybe you're in the process of making some personal changes. And so there's, you might look a little different, and then they're like, what's going on with you? But I think the truth is, it comes down to honesty and transparency. I think if you really are strong enough in what you believe, and you really are taking your life seriously and ownership of where you're headed, then you got to be honest. And if there's certain things in a relationship that aren't serving you, or harming the way that you're going, you got to address those things. And I think if they're addressed and they're not resolved, and there's still tension or conflict, I think that's where you just have, as a mature person, have to go in a different direction. And it can be in a respectful way. You can be like, dude, or whoever it is, like, I love you, but like, this relationship doesn't serve where I'm going. This relationship doesn't serve where I'm called to be. And so no matter what, like, I'm here for you, but I can't continue to be in this cycle. And I think truly, like, the people that love you and care for you, while they maybe don't see eye to eye, are going to respect that. And the people that don't, I mean, that's just kind of confirmation that, those people probably aren't supposed to be in your line of work or your line of relationships at that time. So that would be my biggest advice, would be just communicating and being super transparent, and still operating in a place of respect and love. But like, you got to take ownership of your life. Whose life's, like, obviously we're talking about in this episode serving others, but if you don't lead yourself well, you can't serve others. If you don't fill yourself up, you can't pour out to other people. And so there's got to be this level of ownership within your own self that you take seriously before you can make that impact, before you can serve. And so you just got to be super aware of those things.
And it's a good way I love the honesty and transparency point, because people will normally show their true colors when you force that onto them, like, hey, this isn't serving me, or whatever it might be, and you have that honest conversation. They're either going to respect and support it, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that person will come back in my life, or I have respect for this person, even if in this season of life I'm going a different direction, or there might be led with a lot of judgment and envy, and then it's like, or whatever it might be, criticism, misunderstanding, and again, that's showing you that person was probably never meant to be in your life in the first place. So I love the idea of like honesty and just being transparent and letting people show you who they really are, and listening to that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people like don't actually, I forgot what the quote is, but like, let people show you who they really are. Like, you have to look at that honestly, and not, a lot of times people will say things, but their actions will show different. And so I just love that idea of honesty and transparency.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. And there are a list of guys in my life that maybe we're not as close anymore in terms of hanging out, but I still try to pour into. I still try to encourage, and I keep them top of mind at times. I'm like, I don't know. In terms of encouragement, man, I try to be pretty spirit led. If God puts someone on my heart to reach out to or text, I try to be obedient to that. And I feel like a lot of times that's where He's at His best, when God's just working through us and we're just obedient to that. But dude, it's truly what it comes down to. And I think the last piece of that is stewardship. It's like, I need to be a good steward of my time, my relationships. I don't own any of this. So like if I'm going to be used by God in a crazy way, I need to be obedient and I need to serve well. And in order for me to do that, I need to take ownership of the things that I am using and the things that I have access to.
Thanks for that, Doug. I want to move this conversation to a topic that I think, at least the two of us, and I'm curious, like your end of it, this idea of like our relationship with our physical being, our physical health, and our relationship with fitness overall. I know the two of us have spoken, at least with each other, about moving from a place of like trying to appear a certain way, attain a certain physical image, largely out of vanity. To now getting to a place where, much like you talked about, it's more about the discipline, the dominion of our body, the importance of movement, the mind-body connection that we can get from it, the importance of physical activity. And I'm just curious, like, if we can start to speak on that a little bit, starting with how has your relationship with your physical health and fitness evolved as, you've grown into your calling?
I love this topic, man. I've seen the way that fitness has been so much more than the physical in my life. It showed up in every area of my life. And truly, there's a couple ways we can break this down. On the surface level, if I'm being honest, if I don't work out or I don't sweat or I don't train daily, I get super dude, I can't operate. Mentally, I can't have conversations. Dude, it's bad, bro. Like I get anxious, I get depressed, I get jittery. I have all kinds of emotions when I'm not prioritizing that. And I've just seen the way that it's impacted my life, and so it becomes such a necessity for who I am and what I do. But yeah, I think it really comes down to that holistic approach, right? It's not just one thing. It's like the way that it connects and ties into everything we do. I strongly encourage for people to move and be active. There's obviously a ton of science, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't even want to go down that route of all the different things that are happening within our mind and our body when you're working out, when endorphins are released. All those things are great. But for me, it's a thing of confidence, it's a thing of respect. Myself, it's a thing of discipline, and it's a thing of just showing up for who I want to be. And so fitness has been a big part of my life, especially since I stopped playing basketball. But now it's turned into a place where it can be something that I prioritize for my health and just my general life in general. But I also find ways to really challenge myself and do hard things because I see how that impacts my faith, how it impacts my mindset, and helps me show up for others and honestly lead as well. So it's a complicated thing because there's the baseline of just being a healthy human, but it really is so much more than that.
So Doug, if someone's listening to this and they just feel stuck, don't really know where to go next in life, feel pretty purposeless, whatever it might be, what would you say to that person if you could say one or two things?
Yeah.
Doug, I need your advice.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would honestly share my testimony. I would say, listen, I don't have all the answers, but this is what I've been through. This is what I believe. This is my foundation. This is what I base everything off of, and that's faith. And that's me spending time with God and really praying. I think, it's hard for us to make a lot of minor decisions if we don't have something solid to base it off of. What should I be doing? How can I do this? How should I train? All these things. But to me, the most important thing in my life, and I've talked about it throughout this whole show, is because it's so important to me. It's been my faith. That's my foundation. But in terms of helping someone just get going, it's small steps, and it's one step at a time. It's not saying, hey, look, that's cool. You ran 100 miles. You did this. You did that. You obviously seem like you're very motivated. You seem like you're really energetic. I'm not that way, and that's okay. And listen, the truth is I wasn't always this way either. There were days where I was down. There were days where I was struggling. There were days where I was crying. There were days where I didn't know what the next day would look like because I was scared. There's a lot that I've been through that I'm grateful because I've grown and matured through those seasons. But, if someone's listening and maybe they're in a season like that, you got to take one step. You got to take one step towards the person you want to be. It's not going to happen overnight. It's one little increment of time, and it's consistency, and it's building. It's like we talked about. It's becoming. It's working and developing into your calling, not arriving into your calling. And so that would be my encouragement. Would be one to, if you're open to it, I would honestly pray. And if there's another way to just kind of attack it is take that one step. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's saying something positive about yourself that you love about yourself. What does that look like? Maybe it's one.
That is so hard for some people. even
It is,
that
bro.
is so difficult for some
uncomfortable.
people.
I've tried it recently, like affirmations.
For you, it's uncomfortable.
When I first started doing it, yeah.
It, I'm surprised, but like more broadly speaking, for some people, where self-esteem and self-worth is so low, and the self-talk, because self-talk is so negative, the idea of even accepting a compliment is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The idea of saying I am worthy is so uncomfortable. And I love that idea of like you just have you have to start somewhere. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, but you have to start. Like your mind can be rewired, and we have to start. Like you got to start somewhere. Like these negative thoughts are not just going to flip overnight into like I am this strong, capable individual creator. But you got to start somewhere, and I love that I did that idea.
Dude, even when you're having a lot more success, it's all relative. But even on the upswing, like it's the same process, bro. It's still 1% every day. It's still getting a little better every time. Like that's our messaging for everything we do. Like that's the game plan. It's a little bit each and every day. And the truth is, when you compound it and you stack it consistently, then you start to see bigger and bigger strides. And then people are like, oh wow, like things are really taking off. But the truth is, it's that same input. It's that same 1%. It's just now it's compounding because you're consistent and you're growing and it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me think about, so I follow Alex Hermosi on multiple platforms, but he recently sent a post that really struck me, and it's a little bit related to this topic of like, as you're gaining steam, as you're building, as you're getting that 1% better, maybe you're establishing a new routine or starting to do your 100 push-ups. Alex's post talked about, don't focus so much on like what people are doing and the routines that they're doing, the successful people, let's say.
Yeah.
And you're the definition of success, but focus on what they're not doing as well. And ruthless elimination was the last 2 words of that post. And I loved that because you alluded to enemies, right? Like your factors that are pulling you back. And it's like, can we focus on what we can eliminate? What can we stop doing in order to add wind at our back to move in that direction that you're talking about? Doug, what have you had to ruthlessly eliminate in your life to be able to continue to move forward at the pace that you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hermosi's great, man. He's got some good content. I think a couple of things. I think one, like community is big. If you're not cognizant or aware of the people you're surrounding yourself with, like that is something you need to quickly take account for. Like you need to take ownership of that part of your life. Because that's been a place as I've grown, as I've matured, as again, I talked about it earlier, like when my faith started to really mature, like those were things I had to understand. Like, are these people going to help me go in that direction? I think another big thing for me was, as I kind of honed in on what I'm focused on doing, like if it's speaking, podcasting, or working on our supplement company, it's like eliminating other distractions. Like what are things that I've got on my plate right now that I need to take off of because they're not serving the mission I'm on or the mission that God has me. And so I'd say those are kind of the biggest places, the people around you, and even the things that you have commitments towards, and just being accountable to those things. Like, is this person or is this thing that I'm doing serving and helping me go in the direction that I'm supposed to be going? If the answer is no, you got to eliminate it. You got to take it out of your life.
I like that, and when you said Alex Hermosi, because I think he's actually not big on affirmations, but I would, because I think his whole thing is like confidence comes from just like doing something, like giving yourself so much evidence to support like yourself rather than, which I agree with. But I think even for people that are very insecure and very low self-worth, like affirmations can be super helpful, and they're so like they're not so easy or else for those people, but like just telling yourself like I'm worthy, I'm strong. I've seen someone on Instagram that just like has a daily affirmation every single day. Like it's that idea of like, I forgot what they say, but like if you look for a yellow car, you will start noticing all the yellow cars. If you start saying to yourself, instead of like I am weak, I'm incapable, and then your body and your brain is going to start looking for reasons to support that. If you start saying I'm strong or I'm worthy, whatever it might be, you are going to start, it's going to take time, but you're going to start proving to yourself, and your brain is going to start finding ways to support that evidence, because that's what our brains do. And I'm no neuroscience, I'm no Andrew Huberman, but I'm just speaking from personal experience. And I just think that like it can be such a powerful place to start for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think it's a combination, honestly. I think it's a combination of the work you put in and affirmations, speaking positively about yourself. I think they go hand in hand. I've seen when you put in hard work, like, and you're doing it with intention and you're doing it genuinely. Of course, that's going to breed confidence. Of course, that's going to give you something to stand on, because that's it's undeniable. That's proof of what you've put in. You can't take that away from you. But I also agree that, you can kind of set the narrative in a lot of situations. You can control the way you look, or control the way you look at yourself. You can control the way you think about yourself. Like, these are the things that you can control. So why would you not do them in a positive lens? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy, because I was just at a little session yesterday, and this guy was hosting a session. He's got he's a successful from a place of, 1 million followers on Instagram, has a very big podcast, all sorts of stuff. And he was describing how he felt that he still feels like he's and he didn't say it as necessarily as a positive thing, but he says that he always feels like the unluckiest person in the world, or like all like unlucky stuff always happens. Then he even kind of, I think, subconsciously was like, yeah, like I can even show, like, even getting here, my flight, there's a lot of unlucky stuff that happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, you are sitting leading a session for 30 other people that took time out of their day to come hear you speak and share your story and your voice. You've got a huge podcast that allows you to reach thousands and thousands of people. I could give you 100 reasons right now why you are an extremely, extremely fortunate and gifted and lucky person. So I think it's just such a mindset thing for me. But in his eyes, like, if I'm unlucky, well, I can find things that make me unlucky. Oh, I got stopped at a red light. I should have, I just missed it.
Well, no, I mean, I relate to that. I mean, I live a different life, obviously, but it goes back to some of our saboteurs, right? It's like the judge, the hyperachiever, the perfectionist in us. For me personally, it's always been like the body image I see in the mirror. For most of my life, in my fitness journey, when I see myself in the mirror, it's been nothing but criticism. It's been nothing but judgment about, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not exactly how I want to look. And then there's the comparison piece of it, of like looking at the guy next to you. And it's like, more recently, and why affirmations are so difficult, it's not because I'm not doing well. It's not because there isn't worth, or that there isn't percentage gain in our lives. And like that 1% better mentality, we could always be focused on like that next increment of growth and progress. But we have to be able to look back and say, like, hey, look where you're at. Look how much you have gained. Look how much you have accomplished.
Fuck yeah,
and
I love it.
I think that's where cases, or like the that person was coming from, is just, sometimes we get so caught in this routine of like, what's that next 1%, or how can I make this better?
Yeah.
Can we sit in our moment and just be like, well, look how much you have done already? I think that's a powerful thought, that it isn't so intuitive, and something I've had to grow on for myself.
Because, like, growing up, for a lot of us, we had to prove ourselves to feel love, or to be loved. And like, when you're able to actually sit with the fact and truly believe it, that like, I'm worthy of everything by just being me, your life changes.
Well, let me just take that 1 degree further for myself real quick. It's like, well, that's why accepting a compliment then gets tricky for me, because the entire time what you're seeing and complimenting, I'm seeing something totally different. I'm super critical of it, and then I'm getting somebody telling me like, dude, you're huge, or like, bro, like I could tell you're hitting the gym or whatever, and it's like, well, I'm not seeing it that way, so this is uncomfortable, because I'm not expecting to hear that, because that's not the voice in my head. And so it's been, I chuckled the other day, like, complimenting my body image. It was like, I've never done this before.
It should feel awkward.
Yeah.
It's like, it's new, but that's great, because like, there will be a point where you get to the place where like, you receive a compliment, and I hope this doesn't come off as egotistical, but like, my answer is kind of like, I know, in the sense of like, I agree, like, thank you, like, you appreciate it, your work is appreciated. Hey, Doug, you still there?
Yeah. Yep.
I think we might have lost Doug.
I'm good. I got you guys.
I guess we would just clip them back in.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what to do here. I forgot.
Can you guys hear me?
Always make me.
Can you guys hear me? Hmm. Uh-oh. Well, it just cut off.